Team USA just dropped their training camp roster with player numbers, and fans immediately noticed something that has the basketball world absolutely furious. Caitlin Clark, the biggest name in women's basketball, cannot wear her iconic number 22. The number that's synonymous with her entire career, the number that's made her millions, just got taken away. And the reason why might shock you. Before we break down why Team USA made this decision and whether fans are right to be this angry, tell me in the comments. Should Caitlin be allowed to wear whatever number she wants, or should she follow Team USA's traditions? Because this controversy exposes something interesting about how the program operates. Alright, so Team USA Basketball just released their training camp roster with all the player numbers assigned, and within minutes of that information going public, fans lost their minds. Because there, clear as day on the roster sheet, was Caitlin Clark listed with number 17, not 22, 17. The number that means absolutely nothing to her career, her brand, or her identity as a player. And people are rightfully asking, what the hell is going on here? Is it because we ultimately know she was snubbed from the cover of Team USA, and not only is they snubbing her, the disrespect is continuing because it's looking like Team USA is forcing Caitlin Clark to change her number. Now this article has come out. Let's look at the actual roster numbers that were released. Kelsey Plum got number 5. Jackie Young got 13. Dearica Hamby got 15. Chelsea Gray got 8. Kalia Copper got 7. And here's what's interesting. All the players who were on the most recent Olympic roster got to keep their numbers. Everyone who was already established in the Team USA system maintained their jersey number. But everyone who's new to this particular roster, they got assigned random numbers above 15. Now, before we get into why this is happening, let's acknowledge what fans are actually upset about. This isn't just about a number. This is about respect. This is about recognizing that Caitlin Clark's number 22 is as iconic in women's basketball as Michael Jordan's 23 or Kobe Bryant's 24. You see that number on a women's basketball jersey, and you immediately think of Caitlin Clark. It's her brand. It's her identity. It's what millions of fans associate with her dominance in college and the WNBA. We haven't even made it to training camp yet. We have not even made it to the December 12th Women's USA Basketball training camp yet, and they are already disrespecting Caitlin Clark. So when Team USA casually assigns her number 17, like she's just another player trying out for the team, it feels disrespectful. It feels like they're either clueless about her impact on the sport, or worse, they're deliberately trying to diminish her importance. And that's exactly why fans are furious. Because this looks like another example of Team USA undervaluing Caitlin Clark after they already left her off the Olympic roster earlier this year. But here's where the situation gets more complicated, and honestly, slightly less outrageous than it first appears. Team USA Basketball has a tradition of only using numbers 4 through 15 for their players. This isn't a new rule they just made up to mess with Caitlin. This is something they've been doing for years, and it's based on old FIBA regulations that used to require international teams to use only numbers 4 through 15. Now, FIBA actually dropped that requirement back in 2014. Teams can now use numbers 0 through 99, just like in the NBA and WNBA. But Team USA decided to maintain the 4 through 15 tradition anyway. They claim it's about maintaining continuity and honoring the history of USA basketball. Which sounds nice in theory, but in practice it creates situations exactly like this one where the biggest star in the sport can't wear her iconic number. And before people say this is just about Caitlin, let's be clear. This affects multiple players. A'ja Wilson wears 22 for the Las Vegas Aces. Cameron Brink wears 22. So there are actually 3 high-profile players who all wear the same number in the WNBA. And Team USA's solution to that potential conflict was to just not give any of them 22. They left the number unused and assigned everyone random digits instead. If you look at the men's Olympic team from the last Olympics, they did the exact same thing. LeBron James wore number 6 instead of his usual 23. Kevin Durant wore 7. They all fell within that 4 through 15 range. So this isn't specifically targeting Caitlin or women's basketball. It's just how Team USA operates across the board. They're sticking to a tradition that technically doesn't need to exist anymore, but that they've decided to maintain anyway. But here's where the nuance comes in, and why fans are still justified in being frustrated. Yes, Team USA has this tradition. Yes, they apply it consistently. But traditions can be changed when they stop making sense, and forcing the most marketable player in women's basketball to abandon her iconic number in favor of maintaining a rule that FIBA doesn't even require anymore. That's prioritizing bureaucracy over common sense. The roster that was released shows numbers for a training camp. This isn't necessarily the final roster or the final number assignments for actual competition. These are essentially practice jerseys for a December training camp where they're evaluating talent and building chemistry. But the fact that they assigned these numbers at all, and assigned Caitlin number 17 specifically, tells us something about how the program is thinking about player identity and branding. What's particularly interesting is that when you look at past Team USA rosters, players who wore certain numbers for youth national teams didn't necessarily get to keep those numbers when they moved up to the senior team. Caitlin Clark wore number 6 when she played for USA basketball at the youth level. Paige Bueckers wore number 5. But now, at this training camp, Paige is wearing 19 and Caitlin is wearing 17. Those are just random assignments that have nothing to do with their history with the program or their professional careers. Some people are speculating that the number assignments might actually indicate something about pecking order. The theory is that numbers 4 through 15 went to players who are locks to make the World Cup roster, while numbers 16 and above went to players who are still fighting for spots. If that's true, it would mean Team USA views Caitlin as someone who still needs to prove herself rather than as the established star she clearly is. And that would be even more disrespectful than just the number change itself. There's also the practical consideration that, when the actual World Cup roster is finalized, Caitlin probably won't end up with number 17 anyway. She'll get assigned something in the 4 through 15 range. But what number? That's the question, because all the obvious choices are already taken by players with seniority in the program. Sabrina Ionescu wore number 6 at the last Olympics. Is Caitlin going to take that from her? Probably not. So she'll end up with some random number between 4 and 15 that means nothing to her or her fans. The comparison to the men's team is instructive here. When LeBron James had to wear number 6 instead of 23 for Team USA, people understood because he was joining a team with established traditions and veteran players. But LeBron was also treated with the respect his status deserved. He wasn't made to feel like he was trying out for the team. He was welcomed as a cornerstone player and given deference in other ways even if he couldn't wear his preferred number. The question with Caitlin is whether she's being given that same level of respect. And based on everything that's happened with Team USA over the past year, from the Olympic snub to the number situation to the general vibe around how they talk about her, it doesn't feel like she is. It feels like they're treating her like any other player trying to make the squad, even though she's objectively the biggest draw in women's basketball right now. Some defenders of Team USA's decision argue that treating everyone equally is actually the right approach, that you can't have favorites on a national team, that everyone should earn their spot through performance rather than popularity. And in theory, that sounds fair. But in practice, we all know that's not how Team USA actually operates. Veterans get preference. Players with international experience get the benefit of the doubt. There absolutely is a hierarchy, so pretending there isn't one just to justify not accommodating Caitlin's number feels dishonest. The reality is that there are 3 players who all wear number 22 in the WNBA: Caitlin Clark, A'ja Wilson, and Cameron Brink. Team USA could have handled this by having a conversation with all 3 and determining who had the strongest claim to the number. Caitlin has made it iconic through her college career and WNBA impact. A'ja is a veteran with Olympic experience. Cameron is a rising star. There would have been a respectful way to navigate that conversation and make a decision that everyone could live with. Instead, Team USA just decided nobody gets 22, and they assigned random numbers that don't reflect anyone's identity or brand. That's the easy bureaucratic solution, but it's not the solution that respects the players as individuals with established identities in the sport. It's treating professional athletes with massive followings like interchangeable parts in a system, and that's exactly what feels wrong about this whole situation. What's also frustrating is the timing. Caitlin just went through an entire season where she dealt with constant criticism, technical struggles, and the pressure of living up to impossible expectations. The last thing she needs is another distraction or another reminder that Team USA doesn't fully value what she brings to the program. She should be able to show up to training camp, wear her number, focus on basketball, and prove she belongs. Instead, she's walking into a situation where even her jersey number becomes a talking point. The argument that this is just a training camp and the numbers don't matter falls flat when you consider that Team USA made these assignments public. They put this information out there knowing people would see it and react to it. So clearly, the numbers do matter to them on some level. They're making a statement about how they view these players and their place in the program's hierarchy, whether they want to admit it or not. Some fans are pointing out that Kelsey Plum should give up number 5 so Caitlin could have it, since 5 is at least closer to her usual 22 than 17 is. But that creates its own problems. Why should Kelsey give up her number? She was on the Olympic team. She's been with the program longer. Asking her to defer to Caitlin would create resentment and team chemistry issues. So that's not a real solution either. The fundamental problem is that Team USA is trying to maintain a tradition that creates more problems than it solves. The 4 through 15 number restriction made sense when FIBA required it. But now that FIBA doesn't require it anymore, continuing to enforce it serves no practical purpose. It's pure tradition for tradition's sake, and when that tradition starts conflicting with player identity and branding in the modern era of social media and personal branding, maybe it's time to reconsider the tradition. Think about how much of Caitlin's brand is tied to that number 22. Her merchandise sales, her social media presence, the way fans identify with her. All of that is connected to seeing her in that number. When she plays for Team USA in a completely different number, it creates a disconnect between her national team identity and her professional identity. That might not seem like a big deal to USA basketball administrators, but it's a huge deal for marketing, fan engagement, and the overall growth of the sport. The women's game is experiencing unprecedented growth right now, largely because of players like Caitlin Clark who have crossover appeal beyond traditional basketball fans. People who never watched women's basketball before are tuning in specifically to watch her. Those fans associate her with number 22. When Team USA makes decisions that ignore that reality, they're missing opportunities to capitalize on the sport's momentum and bring even more attention to the national team program. At the end of the day, this situation is frustrating because it didn't have to be this way. Team USA could have made an exception to their tradition for the player who's currently the face of women's basketball. They could have had conversations with the players involved and found a solution that respected everyone's feelings. They could have recognized that sometimes flexibility serves the program better than rigid adherence to outdated rules. Instead, they did what bureaucracies always do. They applied the rules uniformly without considering context. And now they're dealing with backlash from fans who rightfully feel like their favorite player is being disrespected. Whether that backlash will actually change anything remains to be seen. But it's clear that Team USA has some serious thinking to do about how they balance tradition with the realities of modern sports marketing and player branding. So there it is. Caitlin Clark can't wear number 22 for Team USA because of a tradition that doesn't even need to exist anymore. Fair or disrespectful,